Life and Adventures of Jack Engle, an Auto-Biography, in which the reader will find some familiar characters. By Walt Whitman. Read by Frank Blissett. Chapter 5. Could I stand it? Would it not turn my young blood into something of a molasses article? Something to be gauged and weighed, involving tear and tret, and the sage confabulations of those solid, bald-headed, respectable old gentlemen, with pencils in one hand and little blank books in the other? Could such an eternal procession of Chapter 1s, Title 2s, and Section 3s have any other result than to make my brain revolve like this earth on its own axis? Would it not be better to settle the difficulty with courage by calling a council of Ephraim Foster, Violet, and Covert, and frankly telling them that I found I was neither fitted for the study of the law, nor the study of the law for me, and kindly but resolutely declare my determination to go no further? I had been 5 weeks a student in Covert's office, and the preceding reflections were the result. At my age, I have before mentioned that I was just past 20, a young man of intelligence and health wants something to engross him, some real object for his vitality, his feelings, his almost boundless moral and physical spring. It is indefinite what it should be. Some find the object in the gratification of an eager desire to go to sea, to visit different places, or other methods of mere change of locality. Some get it in the pursuit of a particular aim on which they have set their hearts. These aims are as various as mankind, only the pursuit must not be shut out to them. With me, this craving could never be satisfied with the study of law. That was becoming more and more repugnant to me. I had not yet tasted very deeply, it is true, but it was quite enough. I felt one of those strong presentiments that I could not be happy in that way, one of those instincts which, without arguing much on the subject, it is generally wise to follow. But then my good father, the man who had saved me from ruin, who had overwhelmed me with obligations, who even now supplied me more liberally with pocket money than many rich men do their sons, and whose heart was firmly set on this very thing. One time lately, in a manner which would admit the inference of either joke or earnest, I had ventured a few words, for an experiment, to see how Ephraim would look on any such move as turning a short corner in my studentship. His countenance fell, and he winced like a fellow under a shower-bath. Could I so thoroughly displease this man in almost the only serious point where he had demanded from me a compliance with his will? Allowing that it were a penance to me, ought I not to submit, even for his sake, if for no other? And would not time change my aversion, and perhaps make me ashamed of my childish prejudices and weakness? Such debates and contradictions worried me exceedingly, causing my commencement in Covert's office, and the following few weeks, to make a real blotch in my usually happy fortunes. And after all I came to no decision. I waded through the slough of chapters, titles, and sections as before, and began, I fancied, to look pale and thin, as indeed became a professional personage. Not but that the dryness and cloudiness of my occupation were often relieved by gleams of warmth, interest, or fun. It was impossible not to be amused with Master Nat and nearly all his sayings and doings, including his attachment to, and the tricks he taught, his big, docile dog Jack, whose capers, sagacity, and even his expressive look and long yellow wool were the delight of the boy's life. Never was brute more thought of than Jack by Nathaniel, and he returned his master's friendship in kind. Jack, indeed, was very free in his demonstrations. This was exhibited one afternoon when he and Nathaniel returned from dinner. In the office, by the table, stood a lady, while at his desk in the next room Mr. Covert held serious talk with Pepperidge Ferris, a stock and financial speculator who frequently came there on business. The lady, who was young yet, although old enough to have cut her wisdom teeth, appeared to be waiting for Ferris. She had the stylish, self-possessed look which sometimes marks those who follow a theatrical life. Her face, though not beautiful, was open and pleasing, with bright black eyes and a brown complexion. Her figure, of good height and graceful movement, was dressed in a costly pale-colored silk. "Ah, you have a beautiful dog," said she, as Jack marched up to her, wagging his tail, and she leaned to pat him on the head and shoulders. Jack gave up his heart without delay, and, in an instant, 2 large and particularly muddy paws were planted on the folds of the pale silk. The lady uttered a light scream and started indignantly back, for she was but a woman, and the dress was truly splendid. But when Mr. Covert came forward in great anger and chid Nathaniel severely, and reminded him of former prohibitions about bringing Jack upon those sacred premises, and when the sagacious brute crawled in a by-place with evidently depressed spirits, and Nathaniel was more chop-fallen than would be supposed for that philosophic young gentleman, then the lady laughed a good-natured laugh. "Oh, it is nothing," she said. "It is nothing. It was my own fault, for I called him." And she snapped her fingers and called Jack again, and expressed her confidence in the spots washing off without the least trouble, and insisted that the lawyer should find no more fault with the boy, to whom she herself spoke pleasantly. The consequence of which was, a few days afterwards, that I, at Nathaniel's suggestion, incurred an expense of some $5, and went to the theatre on a benefit night, after giving Wigglesworth a ticket, besides similar gifts of the same sort to 1 or 2 boys, Nathaniel's sworn cronies. That was Chapter 5 of Life and Adventures of Jack Engle, an Autobiography, in which the reader will find some familiar characters, by Walt Whitman. Read by Frank Blissett.